who do you think is the least popular Pokemon? If you guessed Trumbeak, you'd be wrong. That's right, after spending most of 2025 stuck at the bottom of the standings, Trumbeak has finally clawed its way out from the last place spot to the spot above last place. See, Bulbapedia, the free Pokemon encyclopedia, has a dedicated article for every Pokemon in existence and released a full list ranking each Pokemon's page visits throughout 2025, from most visited to Trumbeak and Clang. One could feasibly conclude then that the least visited articles on Bulbapedia represent the least popular Pokemon by this one specific metric. A metric I've used to complete Nuzlocks of Pokemon White, White 2, and Y using only the least popular Pokemon, and now it's time to take on Sinnoh. In this Hardcore Nuzlocke challenge, any Pokemon that faints will be considered dead forever, and I can only use Pokemon that appear in the bottom 60 of Bulbapedia's page visits. Anyway, let's kick things off by selecting our starter. All three middle stage starters are eligible for use, but not their pre or post evolutions. I ultimately went with Monferno since it enjoys the best early game of the bunch and is our only available fire type for this entire run. It's been a tradition in this series for me to nickname my pokes based on things I personally like, as a way to endear myself to a roster of mons I'm otherwise not particularly fond of. And it's worked so far, so let's hand out some new nicknames that reflect some newfound interests of mine, such as lowballing people on eBay. This Ember slinging simian, however, is ineligible to partake in rival battles, gym battles, and other important fights until she evolves into Monferno. So someone else will have to be my actual starter, the most adorable insect found on Route 202, Kricketune, who really did not want to embark on this adventure, breaking out of 3 Pokeballs before finally getting captured on the 4th. Don't worry, little guy, we'll work on overcoming your cowardice by evolving you into Kricketune and chucking you straight into the fire, as Coffee is our only eligible Pokemon for the first rival battle on Route 203. She opens her solo endeavor with Fury Cutter, which has not yet been buffed to its higher base power in the later games, and only gets weaker thanks to Starly's Growl lowering our attack. Still, Fury Cutter remains our ticket to victory, so I command Coffee the Kricketune to keep on cutting, through a second Starly Growl, a quick attack, and another Growl. Each hit gets stronger and stronger until Coffee misses her 5th consecutive Fury Cutter, resetting the damage increase. Starly howls with laughter at our blunder, then gives Coffee a quick smack on the dome. Fury Cutter now does barely any damage, but Starly is low enough that a second Fury Cutter can finish it off. Well, at least she got on the 3rd Fury Cutter, inviting in Pinhead's Piplup. Yes, that is the name I gave to our rival. Coffee the Kricketune suddenly remembers that she has a Quick Claw on hand, before landing a 4th consecutive Fury Cutter, while Piplup growls like this is a Discord DM. Unfortunately, Coffee misses Fury Cutter again, resetting the damage increase again. Piplup too howls with laughter. As Coffee begins the consecutive Fury Cutter streak anew, Piplup begins hitting back. At this point, we cannot afford another Fury Cutter miss, so Coffee's gotta land every single one from this point onward. And she does, eventually downing Piplup with just 8 HP remaining and claiming victory. Thank you, Coffee, for making that way closer than it ever should have been. Between you and your ineligible buddy, my hopes for y'all are currently in the dirt. But what if instead of this middling duo, I had a flaming 3-headed hound, or a cute cloudy spirit, or a beetle wearing sunglasses? Well, then I'd be playing Clash of Critters, the sponsor of this video. Clash of Critters is a free-to-play tower defense game where you slay hordes of zombies, build a thriving base,
submit to the whims of the almighty pinball machine,
and collect dozens of adorable critters, such as Frugatoad and Cluckaroo, 2 lovable grassy damage dealers who've been the MVPs of my critter crew. Then there's the sleepy yet sturdy Dozy manning the front lines, and Wobbler, who sounds like this. The quick bite-sized gameplay of Clash of Critters makes it the ideal pick-up and play experience. No stress, no GPS required, no competitive pressure. But that doesn't mean the game ain't got strategic depth either. Check this out. I was getting manhandled on this stage with the Zeds running straight up the middle with ease. So I did the rare gamer move of using my brain, shifting Cluckaroo over from the right column to the middle. With Cluckaroo's additional damage and healing per attack, my middle column critters enjoyed much greater survivability and eventually the hard-earned win. So if you're ready to befriend over 100 different critters, evolve them, and maybe even snag a shiny critter or 2, then check out the link in the description and the pinned comment to download Clash of Critters today. You'll unlock a free launch bundle of 1,000 pinballs, the rare critter Frugling, and a cozy nook. Thank you once again to Clash of Critters for sponsoring this video, and now back to our significantly less cool duo. We arrive at Oreburgh City, and finally evolve Lowball into Monferno, making her eligible for the first gym. Good thing too, as Coffee the Kricketune not providing a whole lot against worked rock types. So to help guarantee Lowball the Monferno's chances of success, I edged her. No, not like that, let me explain. Edging in this case refers to entering a battle at the level cap, but with the Pokemon's EXP bar filled enough that they'll immediately level up after knocking out the first opposing Pokemon. This is fair game by my rule set, and it'll give Lowball some extra firepower after she beats up Roark's lead Geodude with a pair of Mach Punches, only taking a Rock Throw in the process. Don't worry, I'm not gonna edge in every battle for this run. Shut up, you know what I mean. Lowball punches Onix in the face as it sets up some insignificant stealth rocks, but unfortunately our Primate doesn't have the firepower to knock out Onix with her second Mach Punch. Fortunately, the big snake just goes for Screech, and even though Roark pops a potion, that ain't enough to stop Lowball from finishing off Onix. That just leaves Roark's ace, Cranidos. All Lowball needs to do to secure the win here is not get hit by a crit, which is pretty easy to do when Cranidos opts for a non-damaging Leer. Thus, Lowball could dish out one last Mach Punch to earn us our first gym badge. Excellent work, Lowball. And you too, Coffee, for that effort against our pin-headed rival earlier. You're both better than I initially thought, even if you both look kinda chopped. We can fix that, however. I take it back, maybe not. Bad news, everyone. Professor Rowan only delivers his iconic verbal lashing against the Team Galactic grunts in Platinum, not Diamond and Pearl, where he just stands there and watches us put belt to bowl cut butt. However, I have good news too. The increased level cap means we can add Staravia to the party, the only returning mon from one of the previous least popular Pokemon videos. Sorry to all those expecting Elemental Monkey or the money content, they didn't exist yet in Gen 4. No Drakes to slay right now though, just a red-headed galactic baddie at the Valley Windworks. Lowball leads off versus Mars' Zubat, immediately taunting it to prevent Toxic. The rest of Zubat's moveset is pitiful, meaning Lowball can put it on cruise control and... Never mind, she floors it, activating her Quick Claw and running over Zubat. That invites in Mars' Purugly, which means it's time for Lowball to do what she loves most. Start punching everything. She triggers her Quick Claw again and lands a big, meaty Mach Punch that consumes Purugly's held Citrus Berry. Lowball takes a retaliatory scratch like a champ, then triggers Quick Claw a third time, taking her foe into the red. Purugly is powerless to stop the runaway Fright Train known as Lowball, who procs Quick Claw a fourth consecutive time before landing the killing blow. Yeah, forget every doubt I ever had. This batch of unpopular pokes is legit, even under the brightest lights. Speaking of bright lights, Eterna Forest. Compared to the moody, atmospheric lighting in Platinum, Eterna Forest in Diamond and Pearl looks like the setting of a subpar 12-episode fantasy anime. This Nuzlocke was my first complete playthrough of the original Gen 4 games in like a decade, as I usually opt to replay Platinum instead. And were Diamond and Pearl rushed? I mean, that's kind of how I felt playing through it this entire run. The level of polish between Diamond and Pearl versus Platinum is even more staggering than of, say, Ruby and Sapphire versus Emerald, which leads me to ask, are you ready to play?
What's in that honey tree?
Welcome one and all to the award-winning game show that everyone's played if they've ever set foot in Sinnoh. Our three contestants here today will be shown a recently visited honey tree and must guess which Pokemon is hidden within. They'll be awarded a point for each correct guess, and the player with the most points at the end will receive the grand prize, a Burmy, who itself is not eligible for this challenge but can evolve into the eligible Mothim. Now let's begin with the Floroma Meadow honey tree. The Pokemon hiding within this sweet retreat was Wurple. At the Valley Windworks, Cherubi. On Route 205's southern half, Combee. And on Route 205's northern side, another Combee. We'll be back soon with the next episode of
What's in that honey tree?
after these important messages. I found TM67. Recently, I've taken an interest in old-fashioned alarm clocks. Don't ask why, I'm not sure either. Which is why I named my Cascoon Alarm, and reserved the name Radio for the inevitable Silcoon. However, Silcoon can only be found in the wild in Diamond, so I had to catch a second Wurple in Eterna Forest to evolve it into Silcoon. To evolve it into Silcoon. Finally! Now to box these useless bugs forever, and refocus my efforts on the second gym leader and Vine Whip enthusiast, Gardenia. Coffee the Kricketune leads the charge, hitting a Fury Cutter while Gardenia's Cherubi uses Safeguard. Yeah, I could have just led with Monferno or Staravia here, but I wanted to get the most out of Kricketune because its base stats will eventually catch up to it. A second Fury Cutter sends Cherubi into the red, but it can only muster a measly Grass Knot in response. Gardenia pops a potion, but Coffee has entered her zone, effortlessly slicing through Cherubi with Fury Fury Cutter number 3. Turtwig does the stanky leg before getting one-tapped by Fury Cutter number 4, and when faced with Gardenia's Ace Roserade, Coffee stops and slices the roses to secure us gym badge number 2. So much for being a wimp, huh? Coffee's become a stone cold killer. Let's celebrate the slightly concerning turn of her fragile mental state with the best social feature in Pokemon history, the Underground. I love this place as a kid, and I still do to this day. Whoever said the children yearned for the mines was 100% right. As for the Grand Underground in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I will discuss those games later in the video, I promise. For now, let's jump straight into the good stuff. Here is Sinnoh's original iconic Underground. My game froze. Expelling Team Galactic from their Eterna City building was surprisingly easy thanks to Lowball soloing Jupiter Zubat and Skuntank. We soon arrive at Hearthome City, the hub of Sinnohian culture. I was gonna pull up Hearthome's Bulbapedia page to figure out where all the items were, but why not consult the physical encyclopedia instead? This is my childhood copy of the official Pokemon Diamond and Pearl strategy guide. And it's weird. Not just because there's a level 7 Ambipom on page 15, but because all the big blown up maps are really saturated. Like the grass does not look this green in game. Even weirder, the gameplay screenshots in this book have accurate colors, just not the maps. Also, this book's Pokedex is very underwhelming, lacking in substantial information beyond each Pokemon's location. The book does contain decent coverage of the contests and underground, however, but I never really cared about the former, and the latter, damn, it's dark as hell down here. It's also worth noting that Prima Games made a strategy guide for Pokemon Platinum too. We will talk more about this Pokebible one day. For now, we gotta beat up Pinhead again. I wasn't fully prepared for this fight, as you can tell by me leading off with Kricketune versus a flying type, but Coffee just clicks Bide, tanks a couple of hits, then erases Starly from existence. Lowball switches in on Ponytail's Tail Whip, then punches the poor pony in the face a couple of times before Prinplup intervenes. Kenny then tags in and dispatches the awkward looking penguin with a pair of wing attacks before one-shotting Roselia for the easy W. This team's pretty reliable, but you know what is missing? Someone who can actually swim. Which is why I'm backtracking to... Which is why I'm backtracking to the Valley Windworks, because I just got my hands on a good rod, which means I can fish up our only usable water type in the entire challenge, Finneon. Lumineon's eligible too, if you're wondering. I already named a previous unpopular mon after my favorite Uma Musume character, so this Finneon will bear the name of my second favorite Uma Musume. With fish in hand, we can finally step foot into Veilstone City, which would be a really convenient place to live in IRL. You've got shopping, entertainment, and tourist attractions within walking distance, as well as a big evil building with spikes up the hill. The third gym leader, Maylene, specializes in fighting types, which means it's Kenny the Staravia's chance to shine. He one-shots Meditite with Aerial Ace, bringing in Machoke. Kenny will need 2 Aerial Aces to down this foe, and will likely take a Rock Tomb in between, which I planned for. Or Kenny could land a critical hit that renders my original plan null and void. Not that I mind. Maylene's Lucario is all that remains, and Kenny has enough HP to stay in one more turn to deal good damage before taking a Force Palm and getting paralyzed. Time to switch. Coffee the Kricketune holds firm against a strong Metal Claw, but going for a Rock Smash here would not guarantee a kill, and would trigger Lucario's held Citrus Berry. I also can't switch to Lowball the Monferno right now, since Lucario would land a hit, then outspeed the following turn to bludgeon us with Bone Rush. Mach Punch would not be able to kill before that happened. Thus, I decide to let Coffee stay in and click Bide. She weathers a Drain Punch from Lucario, falling to 38 HP before munching on her Oran Berry to restore exactly 10 HP. Now we just need to survive one more blow, which ends up being another Drain Punch. That ain't enough to stop Coffee from unleashing Bide and disintegrating Lucario, earning us gym badge number 3. This team deserves to be rewarded after a group effort like that. Their reward is a luxurious stay at my favorite place in Sinnoh, the Valor Lakefront. This high-class resort area is so pristine and different compared to the rest of the region that it really stuck with me as a kid. Maybe one day I'll be able to afford to visit a place like this IRL. Until then, I'll have to settle with the virtual lakefront. Actually, they're fully booked here, so I guess the team will have to sleep outside in the pool tonight. While they get nice and cozy in the water, I'm gonna sneak off to Pastoria City, home of the 4th gym leader and the Great Marsh. The absolute worst place in Sinnoh. Yeah, it's not even close for me. At least Route 217 has amazing music. At least Northern Route 210 is funny. At least only half of Route 212 sucks. At least Salacian Ruins has the power of friendship. The Great Marsh has okay music, but nowhere near Route 217's quality. And for this challenge, it's a mandatory visit since an eligible encounter lives here. The annoying mud pits from Route 212 are even more common here too, and just look at it. Does this place look fun? Does it look like the power of friendship resides here? Hell no, even God abandoned the Great Marsh. As for the unpopular Mon found here, it's Carnivine, an unspectacular grass type who is the face of Sinnoh's biggest scam. Let me explain. Every day at the Great Marsh, 6 Pokemon will be randomly picked from a select list to be distributed among the marsh's 6 zones, 1 poke per zone. Each Mon will be available at a 10% encounter rate alongside the respective zone's usual encounters. Carnivine is one of these daily changing Pokemon and cannot be found regularly in the Great Marsh otherwise, only through these daily rotations. However, that's not the main problem. The main problem is how to tell if Carnivine is even available. These binoculars might show you which daily changing Pokemon is available, however, they may instead just show one of the many Pokemon available from each zone, including those from the normal encounter pool. Why? Why not just have the binoculars show only the daily changing Pokemon in each zone? No wait, I know why. This is how the Great Marsh makes its money. You think the 500 Pokédollar entry fee is enough to cover all the upkeep and maintenance costs? Of course not. The real money comes from these binoculars and the thousands of Pokédollars you'll burn trying to catch a fleeting glimpse of the Pokemon you're looking for. I did eventually spot Carnivine in Zone 1, but then I entered the Great Marsh and I got stuck in like 20 different mud spots and remembered that I hate catching Pokemon and that the Savari game zone mechanic is total buns. I got it. I feel like personally delivering the Team Galactic bomb myself, but I got it. I've been getting into crosswords recently, so let's name this pesky Carnivine after that. Editor's note, Toadslame is a stupid motherfucker. He was thinking about word searches here, not crosswords. He just mixed up the 2 terms. Come on, Toad Boy, what's wrong with your head? Is anybody there? Hello? Anybody home? Okay, Crash Your Wake time. He has the same level cap as Maylene, which is dumb, but I've been mean enough to this game already, so let's instead talk about the Pastoria gym layout. I actually really like it. It's straightforward, but makes sense for a water-type gym, and I find a shade of blue to be appealing. When I imagine Pokemon Gym in my head, this is the first one that comes to mind. Now, when I see Wake's lead Gyarados, the first thing that comes to mind is, how can I make Coffee the Kricketune handle this? Coffee leads off yet another major battle with Bide. She tanks a bite, but Gyarados then uses Swagger instead of a second attack. The confusion is cured by Coffee's held Person Berry, but her Bide ends up dealing less damage than I'd like. Gyarados then Swaggers again, cementing this strategy as moot, but not totally pointless, as Gyarados is now low enough for Kenny to tag in and finish it off with Fly. Kenny did eat a brine on the switch hit, but healed some of the damage off thanks to his held Shell Bell. All that's left is Crasher Wake's Floatzel. I was expecting an Ice Fang here, which is why I planned to switch to Transcend Definion, but little did I know the enemy AI was dumb as rocks, as Floatzel chose to use Pursuit over the super effective Ice Fang. This bizarre maneuver does make some more sense if you look under the hood. The enemy AI move selection process is long, complicated, and explained better on this GitHub write-up than I ever could. But to greatly and probably incorrectly summarize it, all 4 of the enemy's moves are assigned a score, and certain conditions will lower or raise a respective move's score. After all the calculations are done, the move with the highest score will be chosen. The move Pursuit has its own special condition where it will receive a score boost if it is the attacker's first turn in battle. I can only assume that this condition somehow gave Pursuit a higher score than Ice Fang, resulting in Floatzel's questionable move choice. Makes sense. Doesn't mean I can't call Floatzel an idiot. Foolzel doubles down on its poor choice by pursuing again, while Transcend hits it with Attract. Floatzel gets immobilized by Love, letting Transcend fire off a water pulse that also confuses our foe. Man, all Transcend needed to do here was soften up Floatzel, but she's exceeded my expectations. Then she does it again, activated Quick Claw and landing another water pulse to put Floatzel right where I want it. Floatzel somehow breaks through both Confusion and Love to connect with Brine, but it does little. Then Crossword the Carnivine tags in, ignores a Brine of his own, and prepares to deliver the finishing blow. All Crossword has to do is take an Ice Fang from Floatzel and will be smooth sailing. However, Floatzel is ready to prove how dumb it can truly be by once again eschewing a super effective Ice Fang, this time for Swift. I mean, the crit was cool and all, but it doesn't excuse your terrible decision, Floatzel. Now die. Crossword Carnivine the First somehow fails to one-hit KO Quagsire with a 4x effective Vine Whip, but eventually does the deed to snag us our 4th gym badge. Transcend also evolved into Lumineon immediately after the battle. Not bad. If I had to rank every member on this team so far, this is how it would shake out. And speaking of shaking out, it's once again time to play
What's in that honey tree?
You know the rules, and so do I. Honey trees are what I'm thinking of, so let's get to it. On Route 207, Cascoon. On Route 208, Whirlpool. Route 209, nothing showed up. Route 210 South, Cherubi. Route 210 North, Cascoon. And on Route 215, yet another Cascoon. How the hell have we not found a single Burmy yet? This thing isn't even rare. Whatever. We'll see you again next time for another installment of
What's in that honey tree?
After cleaning a pinhead-shaped piece of gum off my shoe and nearly losing Lowball to a Glameow, we gotta head to Celestic Town to run an errand for Cynthia. That means trekking through another spot on the short list of Sinnoh's worst locations, Route 210, aka Silent Hill. I actually don't hate this area as much as, say, the Route 212 Bog or the Great Mid, because the fog here makes for some hilarious moments.
Miss. 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 Miss.
Cyrus is so polite in this game. He patiently waits for you outside the cave until you're finished speaking with the Celestic Town Elder, then dispenses centrist talking points before wandering off. He's a saint compared to how he acts in Platinum, where he attacks a child because he's upset he can't understand a piece of art. Let's ignore the Hearthome Gym being a glorified math class and the fact that BDSP didn't change a thing about it. I'll talk more about the remakes later, I promise. And set our sights on Fantina, who scares me. Not just because she's a loud, powerful woman, but because Crossword lacks the speed to sweep Fantina's ghosts despite boasting strong dark attacks. And everyone else on our squad either offers little or is a glorified Shadow Ball blocker. I even edged everyone on the team again in case, because I was so unsure of our chances. Shut up, you know what I mean. But all my worrying turned out to be for naught because this fight turned out to be Transcend's big breakout. Despite not having any super effective attacks, her surf still hit hard. She battered a Drift Blim, easily weathered Gust, then punctured that balloon the following turn, inviting in Miss Magius. But Transcend has enough speed EVs to outrun the Ghost and dump water on its pointy head. Transcend admirably tanks a Magical Leaf, chomps down on her Citrus Berry, and proceeds to wash away Miss Magius in a dazzling display of force. Never mind, breakout's over, go home everyone. Kenny comes in on a strong side beam before mopping up the mess Transcend left for him, leaving just Fantina's hipster Gengar remaining. Kenny lands a strong aerial ace but gets hit by Confuse Ray, a sequence I had no clue was even possible because every damage calculator I read said Gengar should have outsped Kenny here. But whatever, Transcend can tag back in on a failed spite and redeem herself, earning our 5th gym badge and the right to finally use Surf in the overworld. Oh my goodness, surfing is so slow in this game. What did they put in the water? Molasses? Oil? Honey? Welcome back to
What's in that honey tree?
Our contestants are neck and neck at the moment, so let's take a gander at our next gallery of honey trees. On Route 211 East, Apom. On Route 212 North, Apom again. Route 212 South, Combee. Route 213, Cascoon. Route 214, Whirlpool. And on Route 218, yet another Cascoon. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. What's even the point if every honey tree just spits out the same 3 mons over and over again? This is dumb. You contestants are dumb. This whole game show is dumb. This isn't even a real honey tree. See, ladies and gentlemen, I bring bad news. We only have one more eligible encounter. Yeah, the overlap between Pokemon occupying Bulbapedia's least visited pages and Pokemon available in Sinnoh is quite narrow. Glameow, found on Route 218, and its evolution Purugly are our final eligible mons, and their version exclusives, which is ultimately why I chose to do this whole thing in Pearl instead of Diamond or Platinum. Since we don't have a normal type rodent to carry on the honored tradition of being named after a Taco Bell menu item, this normal type feline will have to suffice. But if I'm being honest, I don't know if I want to continue this tradition. See, Taco Bell was my gateway to Mexican food as I never even tried a tortilla up until that point, but after eating so much more Mexican food since then that's been higher quality and more authentic, I've sorta soured on the Bell. You know how a relationship is all sunshine and rainbows when you first get into it, but you eventually have to face the realization that not everything about it is gonna be peachy keen and perfect? Take that sentiment and apply it to my relationship with Taco Bell. Wow, that was the fattest thing I have ever said. Put me on a a forklift and drop me off at the nearest Good Life Fitness. But yeah, every time I eat at Taco Bell now, it just feels worse. Maybe it's because I've gotten older and can't process fast food as well as I did before, or maybe it's because I notice all the flaws and subpar quality now that I've experienced it enough times. Either way, I don't know if I should continue the tradition of naming my pokes like this if I don't enjoy Taco Bell anymore. Never mind, I take it back. Yeah, the prices have skyrocketed, the chicken is consistently terrible, the Dorito shell is overrated, the hard shells in general leak everywhere like your mother, and the food could honestly be considered Americanized slop, but it's my slop, and I will eat that slop out of my trough unabashedly. So yes, the nickname tradition will continue. Welcome to the team, Nacho Fry. Oh yeah, gym battle also happened, I guess. After crushing Saturn at Lake Valor, Mars at Lake Verity, and trekking through southern Ontario on an average January evening, we arrive at Snow Point City for our next gym battle. Nacho Fry has evolved into Purugly, but won't be contributing much against Candace and her ice types, because someone more obvious and suited to the task will be carrying the flame. Coffee, leader of battles and slayer of gym leaders, continues her crusade by slicing Candace's Snover into a gajillion pieces, then lands a solid X-Scissor on Medicham before getting paralyzed by its Force Paw. That's Kenny's cue to enter stage left, and despite Medicham going for bulk up, its boosted defenses are not enough to stop Kenny's Aerial Ace from finishing it off. Sneasel's up to bat, but it only musters a slash before getting belted below the waist by Lowball. That just leaves Candace's Ace Abomasnow, who obviously can't handle Lowball either. That was easy. Celebrating this win might actually be a more difficult task, because there ain't much to do up here in northern Sinnoh except visit a lake. Wow, this really is just like southern Ontario. There is unfortunately no Scientology building in Veilstone City, so I guess we'll just have to storm the big evil building with spikes atop the hill instead. Transcend continues asserting her dominance over everyone in Sinnoh by destroying Cyrus in his own building, thanks in no small part to her newly learned Ice Beam. The real battle is yet to come, however, and it awaits atop the summit of Mount Coronet. One thought kept crossing my mind as we scaled this treacherous mountain and its blizzarding peaks. Man, this plot really feels a lot emptier without my boy Looker. Arriving at Spear Pillar, we witness Cyrus summon the legendary Palkia, who envelops the entire Sinnoh region in RGB Christmas lights. Mars and Jupiter stand in our way, but Pinhead swoops in at the last second to provide a helping hand. I was initially uncertain about this fight given we have to pair up with Dirty Dan over here, but Transcend the Lumineon quickly alleviated every worry I had. She made her mark right on turn 1, having everyone else's HP with Surf, including our rival's Screeching Munchlax. Both enemy Bronzor could only muster weak extrasensories, allowing Transcend to wipe the entire board clean the following turn. Transcend then fired off an Ice Beam, one-tapping Golbat while Purugly slashed Ponytail's health bar in half. Our ally got in a stomp for chip damage, then was promptly drowned alongside Purugly as Transcend flooded the battlefield yet again. Skuntank survived Surf, however, and undid some of the damage taken with its Citrus Berry before unleashing a strong Night Slash that thankfully did not crit. Transcend blasted another Ice Beam to one-shot another Golbat, hitting level 48 in the process and learning U-turn. Meanwhile, Pinhead's Staraptor connected with close combat but failed to KO, giving Skuntank one more opportunity to throw out a Night Slash. Thankfully, that critical hit wasn't directed at Transcend, who finished off Skuntank the following turn and secured us victory over Team Galactic's Dual Dames. Palkia nearly creates a new universe but gets peer pressured out of it by the Lake Guardians, then Mesprit emotes on everyone before vanishing, rage baiting Cyrus hard enough for him to unleash his wrath upon us. He leads off with Honchkrow, but Transcend has got an Ice Beam with Honchkrow's name written all over it. That was dumb anyway, you can't even write on an Ice Beam. Cyrus is too broke to afford anything more than a Super Potion, however, letting Transcend amend her error the following turn. That draws in Gyarados, and in turn Kenny, who lucks out by entering the battle on an ineffective Earthquake. Kenny then takes to the skies before knocking Gyarados down to half. Aquatail hits him hard, but Kenny's gonna be alright. He blitzes past Gyarados with Brave Bird, braces himself for the recoil damage, and hangs on with 25 HP remaining. That's the signal for Lowball to enter the fray, and he shrugs off Weavile's X-Scissor before putting a fist-shaped hole into the Weasel's chest. All that remains is Cyrus's Crobat, who's gonna require some maneuvering for us to get it into KO range. I switched to Nacho Fry the Purugly in what I believe to be her first appearance in a major battle this run. She admirably takes a cross poison and despite getting hit by Confuse Ray soon after, is totally unfazed, landing Body Slam to put Crobat right where we want him. My goat Transcend can thus tag in on a soft bite and unleash one final Ice Beam that ends Team Galactic's ambitions for good, leaving Palkia for us to handle. After everything this team's been through, this legendary space deity is just another regular old obstacle in our path. And you know what we do with obstacles? We go around them. One more time, ladies and gentlemen.
What's in that Honey Tree.
We're back for the final installment of Sinnoh's favorite lesson in futility. We're pulling out all the stops for this one, because we're slathering the bark of every single honey tree in Sinnoh one more time. Will we finally find a Burmy, or will these irksome trees reinforce why they've never appeared again outside of Sinnoh? Let's find out. I won't be reading off every tree and its contents this time, it would take too long and I know y'all got TikTok brain. So instead, I'm throwing up a graph of all the results from our final honey tree harvest. Without further ado, show me the mons! Wow, we really never found a single Burmy in this entire playthrough, huh? Figures. That does unfortunately mean that we won't be able to get a Motham, and we also won't be able to award our winner a grand prize at the moment. But they can expect an equivalent check in the mail within 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, that's the end of the game show, everyone. Go home. But wait, there is one more honey tree available before the post-game, on Route 222. Maybe after countless trials, tribulations, and everything else we've been through, this lone remaining honey tree can reward us with what we've been waiting for all along. Nah, just kidding, it was another Apom. I like Sunny Shore City. The glass bridges looked like they'd be really fun to jump on until they shattered. I also taught my big fat ugly cat how to dig a hole, therefore making Nacho Fry our designated Vulcaner counter. She knocks out his leader Raichu in a single blow thanks to her held soft sand, boosting the power of her ground moves. Then she digs a hole under Luxray but fails to secure the one-shot. Luxray heals some of the damage off of its held Citrus, but it doesn't matter whatsoever that it landed a charge beam and got the special attack boost because Nacho Fry can just dig another hole and obliterate Luxray anyway. Next up is everyone's favorite electric type, Ambipom. So Nacho Fry pivots to throwing out body slams, paralyzing our foe in the process. Ambipom does get off a shockwave for good damage, but can't muster much else before getting flattened like Squidward. That just leaves Octillery, whom Crossword can effortlessly switch into and whip into submission, netting us our final gym badge. On to Victory Road. Sinnoh's iteration of the final dungeon is fine. There aren't any spots that require flash, and this place actually has trainers, therefore making it better than half the victory roads in franchise history. Pinhead is back for one final tussle, but he's a non-factor. When Lowball the Monferno can delete your Empoleon in a single hit, you know you're washed. So with Pinhead Larry dispatched, let's go over the 6 Pokemon who we'll be bringing into the league. I think y'all already know who they might be. Lowball the Monferno loves punching stuff, can't get enough of it. In fact, the first thing she ever did after leaving her mother's womb was punch the nearby midwife in the jaw. Despite this, Lowball's dropped her iconic Mach Punch for Flamethrower, because I really needed some consistent fire damage against Aaron's bug types, and I don't want Lowball blowing herself up with Flare Blitz recoil. Coffee the Kricketune has gone from a timid coward to a seasoned cutthroat, having proven herself against numerous high-profile threats. It's been a pleasant surprise seeing just how useful a Kricketune can actually be, and Coffee will remain a vital contributor against the Elite Four, as she's our best answer to Lucian and his psychics. Kenny the Staravia has Intimidate. That's all that needs to be said. Moving on. Transcend the Lumineon is arguably our strongest team member in terms of raw firepower. Her serves hit like a truck, and her Ice Beam will be crucial for slaying Cynthia's infamous Garchomp. That being said, Transcend is still a fraud. Not because she's missed out on one-hit KOs time and time again, but because her glasses aren't even real. They don't actually have any lenses, she just wears them for aesthetics. Crossword the Carnivine was a total pain in the tush to acquire, but has been better than advertised. She is quite slow, but that Power Whip is still a delight to use, and she'll be clicking that move a lot against Bertha's ground types. And finally, we have Nacho Fry the Purugly. Sorry to the 5 people who wanted to see Silcoon or Cascoon take on the Elite Four, but I needed someone who's decently fast and hits decently hard and is overweight. And that's the team we'll be bringing into the final gauntlet. You know them, you love them, and as unpopular as they may be, these 6 will be our bet against the best Sinnoh has to offer. First up, Aaron. Thanks to the choice specs we received back at Celestic Town, Lowball can spam Flamethrower and torch every bug in sight. Drapion isn't a bug technically, so it survives one blow, but its retaliatory aerial ace isn't enough to deter Lowball from sweeping the rest of the insects and sending Aaron retreating into darkness. Did they forget to flip the player's sprite on the Elite Four versus screen? It looks like the player's on the same team as Bertha, who was also a wash. Crossword the Carnivine put Belt to Quagsire, Sudowoodo, Hippowdon, and Whiscash Tush, and although she finally whiffed Power Whip against Golem, Transcend could come in and put the finishing touches on this utter annihilation. Our romp continued against the fire specialist Flint. I was fully prepared to wage a weather war, but after Transcend set up the rain, Rapidash went for an all-out Flare Blitz instead that did like 30 total damage. Thus, Transcend could ride the literal wave of momentum over Flint's fire types. As for the non-fire types, Drifblim whiffed Will-O-Wisp, so it went down in 2 free Ice Beams. And when Lopunny took the field last, I just swapped over to Lowball and had her do what she does best. Now onto the only actual threatening Elite Four member, Lucian. Part of that is due to level caps. I don't know why the Elite Four in Sinnoh's levels vary so much, but another part of that is because Lucian Lucian is hiding a mustachioed weapon in his back pocket. Coffee's Insect Plate boosted X-Scissor dices up Mr. Mime, bringing in Medicham. Kenny switches in and intimidates, weakening the incoming Fire Punch considerably and thankfully avoiding a burn. Kenny then takes the disguise and dunks on Medicham's head to rule it out of commission. Now for that aforementioned weapon. Alakazam. Nearly every member of our team will either get blown up in a single psychic or get half health by a psychic on the switch in, then outsped and finished off the following turn. Except for Nacho Fry the Purugly, who has the HP to survive a non-crit psychic, land fake out, then sucker punch for the KO. Of course, Nacho Fry could also get blown to smithereens if she does get crit or switches into a focus blast. But Alakazam should be clicking psychic here in this instance. Nacho Fry can obviously survive the energy ball, thus allowing her to fake out Alakazam and follow up with a sucker punch that sends it into the back wall. Girafarig up to bat, so Nacho Fry tosses out a body slam to take it into the red. Girafarig connects with double hit meanwhile, and also takes Nacho Fry into the red, which obviously isn't enough to stop our rotund feline from scoring another KO the following turn. Lucian's last Mon standing, floating, is Bronzong, who only takes super effective damage from fire moves thanks to his levitate ability, but Lowball the Monferno can't one-shot the bell and will disintegrate against a single psychic. So someone else will have to handle cleanup duty. The once hesitant resident of Route 202 takes psychic like a champ and uses Perish Song, putting Bronzong on a timer while it quakes the earth, which does hurt like the devil. But Coffee will manage. After stalling a turn with Protect, Coffee tags out for Transcend, who burns a couple more turns until Perish Song finally takes hold and zeroes Bronzong's health, securing us the win over the final member of the Elite Four. This ragtag bunch of forgotten Mons has conquered every challenge thrown at them, and now all that stands between them and ultimate glory is Sinnoh's infamous champion. Bring it on! Coffee obviously leads off the final battle, X-Scissoring Spiritomb to half while Spiritomb's Psychic does about the same. Coffee collects her rifle KO the following turn, inviting in Gastrodon, and you can probably guess who's coming out to deal with that guy. Coffee steals herself against a decently strong Stone Edge before downing Gastrodon with a single Power Whip. Roserade then checks in and is much more dangerous than meets the eye. Its Sledge Bomb can one-shot Crossword and can actually one-shot Kenny the Staravia too despite being a neutral hit. Thus, I choose to bring in Lowball the Monferno, who steals herself against the impending Sludge, but the very wise and intelligent enemy AI strikes again, as Roserade clicks Shadow Ball instead. I kinda regret not bringing in Kenny now, but no point in dwelling on what could have been, especially since Lowball can spit fire for the one-hit KO. Milotic slithers into battle, so I bring Crossword back in on the expected Surf, which deals enough damage to proc Crossword's held Citrus Berry. She doesn't even need to hold a Miracle Seed to one-shot Milotic with Power Whip, which she will do right after braving another Surf. I mean, I wasn't wrong, right? However, Cynthia's infamous Garchomp hits the field soon after and puts us in a conundrum. Everyone else on the team will get packed up by this speedy, monstrous threat if they switch directly in, including Transcend, our designated Garchomp handler, whose Ice Beam isn't actually strong enough to one-shot the dragon. Thus, the best course of action here would be to ensure a safe switch-in by making a sacrifice. Despite my misgivings with the Great Marsh, that sentiment hasn't really applied to you, Crossword. You've proven yourself far more than I ever expected a Carnivine ever could. Thank you for all you've done, buddy. You may be among the least popular Pokemon, but I definitely won't forget you. Transcend does not waste her teammate's valiant sacrifice, hitting a big Ice Beam as she comes in. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, it's not a guaranteed one-hit KO. This leaves Transcend vulnerable to a massive Garchomp blow, but our foe just ends up dishing out a measly Brick Break, meaning Transcend can exact revenge
Yahoo!
By ending Garchomp with a critical hit. One last foe remains, and given that Lucario sits all the way up at number 2 on Bulbapedia's page visits ranking, this is a more fitting final opponent than we could have ever asked for. Transcend catches a huge wave, dropping Lucario's health into critical range while it hits back hard with Earthquake. Cynthia pops a futile full restore, but Transcend catches one wave to undo the healing, then another to drown Lucario and finally defeat the champion of Sinnoh. We've officially beaten Pokemon on Pearl using only the least popular Pokemon. This run went far smoother than I initially expected. Turns out Sinnoh's Forgotten Bunch are the real deal. While they go bask in their glory, let me know which game I should tackle next with the least popular Pokemon. Just don't say any of the Kanto games. I think those might actually be impossible given what I have to work with. Special thanks to the channel members for their continued support as well. And before I send things off, I'd like to clarify something. Despite ragging on Diamond and Pearl a lot in this video, I do truly love these games, even despite their flaws. Sinnoh is one of my favorite locations in gaming period, and I had over 100 hours in my childhood copy of Diamond for a reason. So with that being said, let me finally say that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl suck ass.